Two U.S. mercenaries have been captured by Venezuelan authorities after their staged coup went awry. The mercenary group, known as Silver Corp, was founded by a former Green Beret in the military. His name is Jordan Goodrow. And Goodrow apparently met one of Trump's security guards at a conference that he was a security guard at. And through a conversation with this individual, later there was a meeting set up with Juan Guaido and his political strategist in Miami specifically. Now, after that happened, plans were made and a contract was signed in order to get Silver Corps to essentially carry out a coup attempt. And at some point, that coup attempt really did go awry because Jordan Goodrow, based on what Juan Guaido's political strategist is saying, seemed to act a little erratically. They got into some sort of verbal spat or argument, and there was some miscommunication, according, again, and take this with a grain of salt, what we're hearing from Juan Guaido's team. Now, Juan Guaido is the individual that the United States would like to place as the leader of Venezuela in their efforts to oust the current leader of Venezuela. So let me give you more details on what we know. And the reporting here, really, you have to look at the sources that are reporting it, see if it's a source that's usually in line with supporting U.S.-led military coups. But we do have a video that was released by Venezuelan authorities featuring one of the mercenaries, and his name is Luke Denman. Now, Luke Denman, along with other American mercenaries and Venezuelan nationals, plan to storm Venezuela and abduct Maduro, but were soon captured as they entered La Guaira from Colombia by boat. Now, Denman and fellow former U.S. servicemen, Aaron Berry, were among those captured. They were in like a fishing vessel when they were captured, which is really fascinating, while 8 were reportedly killed. Now, Denman explained that the plan was to capture Maduro, secure an airport, and then fly the Venezuelan president back to the United States. A general services agreement between the mercenaries and Juan Guaido indicated that Silver Corps would advise ex-Venezuelan soldiers in exile for the operation. Goodrow had 45 days to force preparation. For force preparation, equipment procurement, and mission readiness. Now, with all that said, with all that context, I do want to go to the video that was released by Venezuelan authorities. Now, keep in mind that these types of videos are basically shot with coercion because this person has been captured. But this is what he says, and I think it's important because there are some ties to the Trump administration. Take a look.
Jordan.
President Donald Trump.
Who gave you the weapons and the tactical uniforms?
Jordan, through Silver Corps.
What jobs does Cyber Corp?
Private security contracting and consulting, known in some places as mercenary work.
And I do also want to note that Goodrow did provide evidence to the Washington Post in regard to the contract that was signed by Juan Guaido. And in a secretly recorded audio clip that was shared with the Washington Post, Juan Guaido is quoted as saying, you can hear him saying, "We are doing the right thing for our country. I'm about to sign." Okay, so one other piece of evidence that I want to share with you guys, or at least one piece of perspective I want to share with you guys before you jump in, Cenk, is an expert on what's happening in Venezuela. He's a professor in the United States. Democracy Now! Interviewed him and asked, like, is there any possibility that the Trump administration didn't know about this attempted coup? And here's what he had to say.
actually presented the contract to Patricia Poleo, an opposition broadcaster in Florida. And she posted it and reported it on her website and invited Guaido and JJ Rendon, the person in charge of Maduro's publicity and a campaign, and other individuals to come forward and deny it. None have come forward to deny it. So this plot could long-term implicate not only the U.S. government, also the opposition in Venezuela, Guaido and others. It also allows them plausible deniability. I mean, what they want from this is to say, if it succeeded, we would take credit for it. They would be part of this transition government. And if it failed, well, we were not a part of it. We have plausible deniability the same way that Trump has plausible deniability, or at least tries to claim plausible deniability. But I insist, it's the context in which Pompeo, Elliott Abrams, and the Trump White House have created that during the pandemic, seeking regime change, imposing further sanctions, tightening those sanctions, and authorizing movement of U.S. military to the Caribbean and others, that sets the context in the landscape for which this event happens.
And I think that perspective is really important, Cenk, because we already know that the Trump administration has attempted a coup in Venezuela that failed. And during this pandemic, while everyone is incredibly distracted for good reason on staying safe and focusing on coronavirus-related news, the Trump administration has implemented more sanctions against Venezuela, and they have taken a more antagonistic approach toward Maduro.
Was this an attempted coup? Yeah, the guy who led it said it's an attempted coup. I'm not talking about the guy who got captured, who you saw in the video. Look, those videos, you should discount 98%, 102%. It doesn't matter, right? So whenever somebody gets captured, they pretty much, in order to protect themselves, have to say whatever their captors want, okay? I'm not talking about Denman. I'm talking about the guy who sent him. The guy who sent him, as the coup was happening, did a video saying we're doing a coup in Venezuela. There's no question about that. Are they mercenaries? There's no question about that. Did the Venezuelan opposition talk to them about doing a coup together? There's no question about that. In fact, Rendon, one of the opposition figures, when he saw this going awry, went to the press and said, here's the contract that we had with them, but we didn't sign it. Here's an unsigned copy. Now, the guy leading the coup, the mercenary, head mercenary, says, I have a signed copy of it, and I have the tape of the opposition leader, Guaido, saying, we're doing this, okay? Now, okay, let's say you don't believe him. Let's say at the last second, the Venezuelan opposition thought, we were planning on murdering our political opponent or kidnapping him, and we were going to pay apparently over $200 million for it. But, we thought maybe this guy's not the right murderer for the job. Because, by the way, according to the press, and they're saying this to the press, they interviewed many different mercenaries. Other mercenaries asked for $500 million. That's why originally the opposition went with these guys, because at the low price of about $212 million. Okay? And they were going to, how are they going to pay them? Oh, with the money of the Venezuelan people. They say, once we take over, we'll have the money of the taxpayers of Venezuela, and we'll give it to you mercenaries, since we hired. I mean, we've gone so far backwards in the world. So now the Trump administration, did they say to these clowns, go ahead and do this? I don't know about that, because they appear to be clowns to everyone. But certainly the opposition, by the end, it appears, had pulled out, whether they signed a contract or not, was like, total bozo the clown, don't do this. Because in the beginning, the guy promised that there would be 800 troops that he would bring in as part of his private army, right? Well, it turns out there was like 24 guys at most. So on the other hand, did the U.S. government know they were training in Colombia? How could they not know? They work with the Colombian government. We have aerial footage of Colombia, which is an ally of ours, let alone Venezuela. So it would be shocking if they didn't know that they were going to do this coup. So what is the likely answer? They're like, well, let him try. If it turns out it works, we'll say, oh, it was us, it was geniuses. And if it doesn't work, well, Anna, what would Pompeo say then?
Well, we have video of that. And, of course, as the professor in the last clip you watched said, the Trump administration wanted to treat the situation in a way where they could have plausible deniability and say that they know nothing about it. And this was done. The mercenaries did this without the U.S.'s knowledge. And then on top of it, keep in mind that the Trump administration attempted a coup against Venezuela recently, like last year. And of course, they failed. And then Pompeo has the audacity to go up in front of the general public and make statements like what you're about to see.
Able to tell us, or does the U.S. know who may have initiated or bankrolled this operation in Venezuela from over the weekend?
There was no U.S. government direct involvement in this operation. If we'd have been involved, it would have gone differently. As for who bankrolled it, we're not prepared to share any more information about what we know took place.
Come on! Look, I know that we don't know for sure, right? So, of course, please take note. This is my speculation. They knew. You can tell when he's lying. And like the arrogant nature of his statement, like it would have gone differently. Really? It didn't go so well last year, did it, Pompeo? I mean, they're such clowns. It's amazing to me. And I have two other pieces of evidence I want to share with you guys, but go ahead, Cenk.
So when I saw him say that, I was like, oh, no, this is exactly how it would have gone if you guys did it. You now have ironically convinced me that you were a bigger part of it than I originally suspected. I mean, this just looks like the exact kind of clown show that Trump would put on. So give more evidence, and then I want to say one last thing.
All right. So two other graphics. So I want to start off with some evidence that Goudreau shared with the Washington Post. And it was a text message from Rendon, who is the PR strategist, political strategist for Juan Guaido. Washington is fully aware of your direct participation in the project, and I don't want them to lose faith, Goudreau warned in an October 10th message to Rendon. Okay, so he sent that to Rendon. So I guess take that piece of evidence with a grain of salt. But here's something important. According to a biography on the company's website, this is for Silvercore, Goudreau planned and led international security teams for the President of the United States as well as the Secretary of Defense. Now, again, it's coming from Goudreau, and I will grant you that he seems a little kooky to say the least. But I just have this gut feeling based on the Trump administration's previous behavior and previous actions against Venezuela that in the very least, minimum, they knew about this and they didn't try to stop it. They didn't try to get involved. They just wanted to see it happen. And I guarantee you that if this coup was accomplished, the Trump administration, including Mike Pompeo, would hold multiple press conferences, patting themselves on the back. The way that the Trump administration handled this, for most people who aren't really paying close attention to the details of the story, worked out perfectly for the Trump administration because there is plausible deniability. They can say, oh, we had nothing to do with it because they failed, right? But I guarantee you that if these mercenaries succeeded, the Trump administration would be bragging about it and would take all the credit.
So Goudreau did security for some events. He met with Trump's former personal bodyguard, who now also has a security company. Some reports are that guy thought Goudreau, eventually he thought Goudreau was a clown and backed away. Goudreau did provide security for a so-called charity event in Colombia to raise money for Venezuela that Richard Branson put on. He was close enough to those guys to have the air of authority. And so, but like most clowns and like the guy he emulates, Donald Trump, Goudreau, of course, didn't go on the mission. Remember, 8 people got killed on the mission. Goudreau talked a big game, wanted the money, but he sent other people to go die. And they did. And 2 were captured. And now, Pompeo is talking about, well, look, these are Americans and we're going to get them back. Really? I mean, if somebody tried to do a coup against the United States of America, I guarantee you we ain't giving them back. That's not how it works. When you go to murder someone or kidnap them, including their wife, that was part of the plan, okay? When you go to kill or kidnap somebody's family, they don't let you out. That's not how it works.
Right. Why are we trying to stage a coup in Venezuela? Like, what is their excuse now? Especially as the Trump administration has proven over and over again that it doesn't care about, democratic values or making sure that a president is elected democratically. I mean, look what's happening in our own country right now, where Donald Trump puts his donor as the postmaster general in a year where it's very likely that we need to vote by mail because we're dealing with a pandemic. Okay, so does that mean that Venezuela should start staging coups here because our democratic process is being tampered with? This is crazy.
So this is like the Bay of Pigs, except that was the biggest scandal of Kennedy's career. And for Donald Trump, it's Thursday.
Totally.
No big deal. Like, oh, Bay of Pigs. That's like number 987 on the list of failures of Donald Trump. And finally, why is Goudreau not arrested? Are we just letting people do completely illegal coups of other countries from based in the United States with no consequences? What if Goudreau, by the way, they looked up the law, and one of the things they tried to figure out was, can we use a law meant for pirates to justify this illegal coup? And by the way, they concluded they couldn't. So it's totally illegal. If Goudreau wanted to do a coup against Trudeau in Canada, would he still be free? And apparently the answer is yes. Apparently you could run private armies out of America. You could be mercenaries or pirates or anything you want. And as long as you say nice things about Donald Trump, there is no rule of law.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.